last, the work of generations is complete.
What?
The great error is corrected. The day of victory is at hand.
Are you serious? Is this a joke? Are you pulling my leg here, Disney?
The day of revenge. The day of the Sith.
The Rise of Skywalker, it doesn't answer anything.
Welcome back, everyone. Yes, I am not shitting you. Disney, with their countless employees and very limited number of brain cells, decided to put key story details for the Rise of Skywalker into Fortnite. Fortnite! That mysterious broadcast of Emperor Palpatine's ludicrous return wasn't included in the actual movie, nor was it included in one of their terrible Star Wars side projects. Nope. They were so desperate for any kind of publicity for this inevitable dumpster fire that they included Emperor Palpatine's sinister revenge broadcast in the most popular Battle Royale video game on planet Earth. And here I thought that the special looks and featurettes that Lucasfilm was churning out on YouTube were the most shameless marketing ploys that the company had to offer, but this just might have taken the cake. Thankfully, box office projections have estimated the film, at the very least, won't pass The Last Jedi, so I guess the circle of failure is now complete. But sadly, we are not done with this movie, not by a long shot. Now, before we continue, again, a few disclaimers. First, as both the title and thumbnail imply, this is part 3 of this ongoing series about Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. I will link parts 1 and 2 for you to watch at your leisure in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Secondly, the aspect ratio and footage used as references in this video have been altered to prevent false copyright claims from YouTube's automatic algorithm copyright bots. These are very sensitive bots that you can't take chances with, so I do apologize, but regrettably this is necessary. Finally, in regards to my point about marriage being a canonical part to the Star Wars lore, when I questioned the customs of marriage and why Leia hadn't changed her name to Leia Solo instead of Organa, I mentioned that Attack of the Clones introduced marriage with Anakin and Padme. Now, I did have a viewer mention to me that Owen Lars referenced Aunt Peru as his wife in A New Hope. Now, sadly, I wasn't able to find the clip. Perhaps it was in the deleted scenes, I'm not sure. Or perhaps I'm just retarded. So apologies if I got that little detail wrong. But I, for one, am willing to give my audience the benefit of the doubt. And in addition to that, Watto and Cleet Lars in Attack of the Clones comment on the marriage with Shmi Skywalker. Though again, Shmi isn't referenced by her full name after she was married, at least not by anyone who knew her post-marriage. And in addition to that, I mentioned that the customs of marriage presented by Attack of the Clones wasn't clear. That being if the female participant keeps her own surname or adopts the surname of their spouse. People did say using Padme and Anakin was a bad example since they married in secret, and Padme couldn't exactly announce to the world that she was Padme Skywalker. Now that is an excellent point, but in my defense, there isn't exactly many examples to choose from when it comes to marriage in the Star Wars universe. And despite Padme not publicly acknowledging her spouse, there's nothing to suggest that her legal name still wasn't Skywalker. It's possible she did change her last name, but only the officials on Naboo knew about it. And again, this comes back to my argument about Star Wars being unclear about the customs of marriage. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get on with the actual movie. Rey ceases her meditation with the Force and walks up to a carefully edited version of Carrie Fisher from unused footage in Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Again, keeping Leia in the story was a terrible idea. No disrespect to the character or the actress, but if you insist on keeping around the character from a deceased actor or actress and opt to use footage of said actress as opposed to CGI, then what you are bound to accomplish is significantly limited to the point, in fact, of where you have to write the script around the deceased actress to make her limited lines flow with the rest of your script and story. J.J. Abrams again basing his productions off the criticisms of past films in the Star Wars franchise. If they were insistent on keeping Leia around, it's my firm opinion that they should have used CGI and audio dubbing to accomplish her presence. Still keeping her to a minor role, but at the very least, she wouldn't be a detriment to other characters and their interactions with her. I've always found it bizarre how some Star Wars fans treat CGI like the devil. It can work brilliantly in movies if utilized correctly, and in the case of deceased actors, can serve to give them one last final hurrah, a dignified send-off for them into the audience's memory. You just have to get talented individuals who work extremely hard on the project to make it look realistic. And you can't make the excuse of budgetary reasons either. Disney, if you can fund $15 million per episode for The Mandalorian, you can fund a few small scenes with a CGI human being. But the more fundamental problem with Leia's presence in this movie isn't how they integrated her on screen. It's the fact that she wasn't killed off in both Star Wars The Last Jedi, or perhaps off-screen between episodes 8 and 9. Personally, I always thought that episode 9 should have begun with Leia's funeral. Perhaps with a few small flashback sequences of our main protagonist's interactions with her, maybe an important lesson each character learned from her years of wisdom as a resistance leader and a diplomat. I'm sure the audience would understand given the meta reasons for Carrie Fisher's limited screen time and lack of an on-screen death. This would do the character justice and would give the audience an opportunity to connect with her one last time, with minimal damage to the film. Despite Carrie Fisher's death, what baffles the absolute fucking shit out of me is that Kathleen Kennedy, Rian Johnson, and J.J. Abrams were adamant about keeping her around. Admittedly, she didn't really do much in Star Wars The Last Jedi, so why she wasn't killed off would contribute to the retarded enigma that is Rian Johnson. However, in The Rise of Skywalker, despite the actress being deceased, J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy have written a story where she has a more pivotal role than the other two movies combined. She is Rey's teacher, not Luke Skywalker. She is running the Resistance, not Poe. She is the one who prevents Kylo from beating Rey. She is the one who trained with Luke and left Rey a second lightsaber, enabling the final act of the movie to come to fruition. Now, setting aside the moronic writing surrounding Leia, who the actual fuck had it in their heads that this was a good idea? Anyway, Leia tells Rey to be patient, and she responds with, "I'm starting to think it's impossible to hear the voices of the Jedi who came before." And this line is said to facilitate Leia's next response, where they had it pre-recorded saying, "Nothing's impossible." Wait, hold up. You're trying to hear the voices of the Jedi who came before. Can I just chime in here for a second? That is fucking impossible. So why is it in this movie? This is more mythos JJ is pulling straight out of his ass crack.
Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks!
Now, I wouldn't be so miffed if Rey was trying to connect to the Force ghost of Luke, for example, since the dead can speak and they can talk through Force apparition. But those of us who have seen the movie know that isn't what she's referring to, and we shall come back to that one day. Not to mention, before either of the two characters flush out what they're doing or how this makes sense, Rey's like, "I'm gonna run the training course. See ya!" And Leia hands Rey Luke's lightsaber, and she dashes off.
The Rise of Skywalker, it doesn't answer anything.
So it is cool to see some Jedi training, even if it is a movie and a half too late. But here's something that bugged me right off the bat. We get this shot of Rey running with the lightsaber, or a shot that Disney, for whatever reason, simply can't get enough of, despite the fact that Jedi in the original Lucasfilms only ran with a lightsaber when the situation demanded it, like if it was a raging battle or a chase of some kind. But here, their poster child is flashing that glowing baton every chance she gets. So we get that shot from the trailer where she had the lightsaber turned on, and in the next shot she has it turned off. And then the next shot after that she has it turned on again. Okay. Again, it just begs the question of why she was running with the lightsaber in the first place. Just for that, I'm a badass female Jedi visual, I guess. Anyway, the rest of the training sequence isn't bad. She just has to use the helmet that Luke did in New Hope whilst deflecting blaster bolts from a hovering droid, and she has to do this while crossing a log bridge whilst essentially blindfolded. As she's doing this, the drone is still chasing her. She runs up a tree and uses Luke's saber to sever a red ribbon, which she needs to retrieve before running back the way she came and force jumping to the other side. It is here that things get very strange. For some reason, at this point in time, Kylo Ren touches the ruined mask of Darth Vader, which he still is in possession of, and for some reason this triggers a force connection between Kylo and Rey. Now, setting aside that this power was given no explanation in The Last Jedi, aside from the fact that it was Snoke's doing, and we all know what happened to him. This power was essentially pulled out of thin air, and then it gets even stranger because Kylo later attributes his connection with Rey is possible due to more vague bullshit regarding a, quote, dyad in the Force.
Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks!
So this retcons Snoke and Palpatine's involvement, saying the connection is between the two of them, free of outside influence. Not to mention Kylo tells Rey later on that Palpatine is oblivious to the existence of their dyad in the Force, so it wasn't Snoke at all, and it wasn't Palpatine, which makes the events of The Last Jedi even more retarded. This movie is actively trying to patch up holes from The Last Jedi, which one would assume would make the film better, in retrospect, but in actuality, The Rise of Skywalker is actually making that already clusterfuck of a film even worse, by making certain events that made little sense in the film now making no sense whatsoever. That whole plotline with Snoke manipulating Kylo and Rey is utterly ridiculous if it wasn't already. and it was. The reason I bring this up is because for whatever reason, after touching Vader's mask, the Force connection is triggered, and it's left perfectly ambiguous why these connections occur and what causes them.
The Rise of Skywalker, it doesn't answer anything.
Since they tend to pop up conveniently wherever necessary to pull this broken mess of a film straight out of quicksand.
Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks!
Like at this moment in Rey's training, Kylo establishes a Force link somehow and starts fucking about with the drone that's trying to attack her, using the Force to make it faster and more agile, frustrating Rey, who for some reason gets very cross and starts lashing out in a fit of rage, resulting in her throwing a lightsaber and slicing down a number of trees, which damages BB-8. She finally destroys the drone by piercing it with a long stick similar to that of her staff, which she has used quite proficiently in the past. And then, for some reason, another vision sequence is triggered, like in The Force Awakens, only this time, the images apply to both Kylo and Rey. And it ends when Kylo removes his hand from Vader's mask, as if Vader's mask, other than being yet another bloody reference to the original trilogy, is also the catalyst for the Force connection? None of this makes any goddamn sense, and these visions do nothing but try to trick the audience into believing that Rey is somehow going to go down the dark path. Kylo mentions later that he's still trying to turn Rey to the dark side, and Rey is shown disturbing images of the day she last saw her parents and a glimpse of dark Rey. This is supposed to be development for her possible turn to the dark side, and I am wholeheartedly unconvinced. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, despite not having so much as a single scene prior to this suggesting a turn to the dark side, aside from Luke's supposed first lesson where Rey quote-unquote goes straight to the dark, and then never again. She never again thinks about turning to the dark side or lashes out in aggression unless her life is directly threatened, and even then, one could argue that she wasn't even being hateful, she was just being brave and fierce.
I feel so dirty. The dirt's not coming off.
I guess we could say that the previous two movies had alluded to her possessing the seeds for a possible turn. She has been shown to have been afraid of her power and of her visions, terrified even, not to mention starting her understanding of the Force at an age that's not traditional for a Jedi. But there is nothing to bridge the gap of development in between. All she's done since these brief moments of weakness is just saving the day and performing with little to no difficulty over and over and over and over. I again point to the beloved prequel trilogy of how this is done correctly. The Phantom Menace planting the seeds for Anakin's eventual turn. Where he comes from, what his relationships are, how ambitious he is, and what separates him from other apprentices.
The reading is off the chart. Over 20,000.
And Master Yoda doesn't have a midichlorian count that high.
No Jedi has.
The boy will not pass the Council's tests, Master. He's too old.
I miss her.
Afraid to lose her, I think.
What has that got to do with anything?
Everything. I sense much fear in you.
Attack of the Clones bridged the gap perfectly, showing him as a conflicted character, his ambition conflicting with his morals of the Jedi Code, as well as his romantic pursuits, to the only woman besides his own mother who truly understands how hard his life has been. Not to mention his nightmares of his mother's demise, which turned out to be a premonition when he arrived too late to save her, since what was holding him back was the Jedi Code in the first place, resulting in a breaking point moment where he slaughters every man, woman, and child in the Tusken Raider camp, out of sheer rage and grief, culminating with Revenge of the Sith, where his turn to the dark side was completed when he tried to save the one person left who he truly loved, not to mention his unborn children. The Rise of Skywalker is trying to bait the audience with Rey's turn to the dark side, not to mention outside marketing material like the Dark Rey teaser trailer, but they are suggesting Rey's possible turn without providing any development or explanation for her growing darkness whatsoever. And much like Palpatine's return, they are going to try and tie Rey's lineage, her power, and her calling darkness together with a single fucking line later in the movie.
You have his power. You're his granddaughter. You are a Palpatine.
Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks!
But we will get to that. To finalize, their attempt to bait the audience is unconvincing because of the severe lack of development, much like the rest of what this film tries to do. It feels like too little too late. Not to mention, once again, the Force connection between the two central characters just comes out of nowhere, and this is not the first time, and it certainly won't be the last time this happens because of sheer convenience. Because of this random Force connection, Rey is too flustered to complete the training course, and she realizes she's damaged BB-8 when she recklessly cut down those trees. This is one of the 3 setups for Rey to have a classic protagonist lack of faith in themselves arc, so that she thinks that by being so powerful, she's dangerous and she's going to hurt those around herself. So it's better if she isolates herself the way Luke did on Arc 2. Later, the Palpatine's granddaughter reveal will feed into this as well. I can appreciate the effort, but again, because of the lack of development and because it's so rushed, I find it contrived and uncompelling. And by the way, what the fuck was BB-8 doing out on a Jedi training course? Just so JJ could force BB-8 in harm's way to facilitate Rey's doubt in herself and how she hurts others. I keep saying this is all very uncompelling, and it's shit like this where I would point to as the main reason why this is utter contrived bullshit, forced in out of nowhere to push the plot along. This movie is one gigantic fucking mess. Then it cuts back to Rey tending to her bags at the Resistance base. She's frustrated that she wasn't able to finish the training course, and she opts to hand back the saber to Leia. She tells her, "I will earn your brother's saber one day." Even though in The Last Jedi she essentially mugged the guy for that family heirloom. Yes, it's true, Luke was written to want nothing to do with the lightsaber, but she just straight up fucking takes it from him. And this pissed a lot of people off, myself included. Remember that checkbox I told you about? Well, again, this is JJ trying to correct The Last Jedi's mistakes, which again, I can commend, but it's so jarring as an audience member because it's so nonsensical. It's like, see, she's still using Luke's lightsaber, but she doesn't want it. Not until she earns it. And then in a scene, not 5 minutes from that moment, Leia just gives it back to her because she's earned it. Again, it's like Disney is acknowledging the criticisms while spiting them at the same time. What the actual fuck? This makes no sense whatsoever, not to mention it isn't trying to. Finally, let's talk about another checkbox on JJ's list, and a retcon we still haven't discussed. Luke's lightsaber in this movie. Bright, shiny, and new, despite the fact that Rian Johnson, in a very not-so-subtle way, killed the past in the last movie. The saber was split in two, and based on this imagery, the kyber crystal inside was shattered as well. But here's the lightsaber anyway, not even a scratch from where it was repaired, which again, I call bullshit on. It would have been easier for Rey to just craft herself a bloody new lightsaber, which she has been shown to do at the end of this film anyway. And thanks to yet another retcon, she could have just gone back to bloody Arc 2 to fetch Leia's buried lightsaber that she fucking left there after she trained with Luke, but she kind of forgot she fucking left it there. Due to becoming old and senile, I guess. But no, it had to be Luke's lightsaber. Because reference, and there had to be two blue lightsabers at the end for Kylo's bogus turn to the light side, and this doesn't happen if Luke's lightsaber is unusable. Not to mention, it has to be Rey who's using it. She's stolen the entire legacy from the Skywalkers at this point, so stealing a win over Palpatine is just a final middle finger. To both Star Wars and George, straight from Disney. Just fuck this film. And there you have it. That was part 3. I wanted this part to go on for a lot longer, but once again there was a lot to talk about in a short portion of this film's runtime, and I wanted to end the video here because of my memory of this movie is being stretched very thin, and I'd rather not continue with this project at the risk of making several inaccurate points, so this will be on hold until there's more footage available in the coming weeks. With that said, now you can find parts 1 and 2 of this series in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you enjoyed part 3 and would like to see a part 4, be sure to pass this video along and hit the like button. In the meanwhile, you can check out my response series Revenge of the Prequels, where I respond to various creators and tear apart their awful argumentation regarding the Star Wars prequels. And if you were just as pissed off at Season 8 of Game of Thrones as the 6 billion other people on this planet, check out my series that covers the downfall of that once great show. If I could borrow a minute of your time, I'd like to give a big thank you and shout out to my supporters on Patreon. Thank you Scouts, Jerry, Jerome, Riff, Rookie, Anna, Emperor, Tord, Peter, James, Daniel, Belinda, and Gary. Your support means the world to me and allows me to keep doing this, so thank you. If you would like to support the channel, you can donate to the Patreon, even if it's just $1 per month. It goes a long way in helping creators like myself. Or alternatively, you can become a channel member through YouTube if you would like to help me out financially. So a quick thank you to the Star Killers, the Captain Prices, and the Master Chiefs for your continued support as well. Now, if you'd like to reach out to me, you can follow me on Twitter and inbox me there if you wish. Or preferably, you can join the channel's public Discord server where you can interact with other followers of this channel and discuss a range of different topics ranging from Star Wars to anime and even Doctor Who. So who knows? Check it out. You'll probably enjoy yourself. And maybe make a few friends along the way. And a quick shout out to the Discord as well. You guys are awesome and it's always a blast interacting with all of you. And finally, with all that said, thanks for watching the video and for staying till the end. I very much appreciate it and I'll see you next time. My boy after realizing Kylo died so he can date Rey. It's not about who she kisses, but who eventually lays the pipe.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.